In America, there is a cultural, not biological phenomenon called white, Black, Asian, Native, and Latino peoples. These groups, to the average American, constitute different races. When Americans talk about interracial relationships, they mean people from these apparent different groups relating to one another. I said social, not biological phenomenon. For a person could have white skin color, but if he identifies with Black America and talks like Black Americans do, he would be treated as Black Americans are treated in America, as second-class citizens. In actual fact, however, when people talk about interracial relationships, they are probably talking about the problems people from different cultural backgrounds have in relating to each other. In the not-too-distant past America, the so-called races were legally, not justly, separated and prevented from relating to each other. This apartheid was based on unproven assumptions made about each race. White persons were placed at the apex of the American racial pecking order, and Black persons were placed at the bottom. The other groups were placed in between. To be white in America was to be superior to other races, and to be Black in America was to be inferior to other races, and to be Asian was to be in the middle of the assumed superior white and inferior Black persons. The various groups that constituted the American polity, obviously, internalized the social constructs of whom and what people were, and those assumptions affected their relationship with each other. Until recently, many, if not most Black Americans were taught that they were inferior persons, whereas most of them probably knew that that idea was wrong. Nevertheless, they were socialized to it and internalized it in varying degrees. The idea of superiority and inferiority affected Americans' social relationship, with those who were socialized to believe that they were superior to others condescending towards those socialized to accept that they were inferior persons. White folks, particularly in the southern states, behaved as if they were superior to Black persons. Until recently, the typical white American had a neurosis, the illusion of his personal superiority to Black persons. In fact, some had a psychosis, the delusion of being superior to Blacks. Inferiority and superiority feeling are delusions. Belief in what is not true is true, for the truth is that all people, men and women, Black and white, are the same and are equal. Each human being, beginning from the moment of birth, constructs a self-concept and idea of who he thinks that he is. He employs his inherited biological given and social experiences as building blocks in constructing his self-concept. Once constructed, the self-concept is translated into a self-image and seen in the individual's mind. The individual also constructs concepts of what he thinks that other people and things are. Generally, the individual sees himself as separated from other people. He sees himself as limited to his body and sees his body as boundaries separating him from other people. He sees himself as living in a world of space, time, and matter. He believes himself weak, puny, and vulnerable, and could be hurt by other people and things, and devotes his life to defending his life via food, medications, clothes, shelter, etc. Our lives on Earth are no more than defense of our bodies and our sense of selves, egos. The self-concept, self-image is the same as personality. Personality is the individual's habitual pattern of behaving, of responding to other people and to the world in general. Generally, personality is formed by age 6 and set in stone by adolescence, and subsequently is difficult to change, except through conversion to religion, to different philosophies of how to live one's life, and/or from trauma to the brain that makes the individual to think differently. Generally, people are at 60 who they were at 16. Where there is a personality disorder, such as conflicted pattern of relating to other people, it is apparent by adolescence. See George Kelly, Personality as a Personal Construct. Also see American Psychiatric Association, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 4th edition, section on personality disorders. People have different self-concepts and approach each other with those different concepts. Each person's concepts is individualistic, but is influenced by the idea of race. As Alfred Adler pointed out, there are individuals in every group that feel superior to other persons, and there are those who feel inferior to other persons. There are those with positive self-esteem and those with negative self-esteem, those with high or low self-opinion of who they think that they are. Each human being has different opinion of his worth and value. These feelings are exacerbated by race. A Black person who, for any number of reasons, feels inferior will probably feel more inferior as a result of the racial situation in America. A white person who feels superior will probably feel more superior to blacks as a result of the racial situation in America. Clearly, the past de jure and present de facto strictures against interracial mixing in America played a role, and probably still does so, in how people relate to each other across race lines. Consider dating. In America, until recently, folks were encouraged to date and marry only persons from their race and were frowned upon, even punished should they date persons from a different race. This disapproval of interracial dating was particularly serious for Black Americans. Since socially, white persons were deemed superior and Black people inferior, for a Black person to date a white person was discouraged. Black men who had white girlfriends risked death. Indeed, until the 1960s, such men could be lynched, hung on the nearest tree. Thus, on the whole, there was little overt interracial dating. But this appearance is deceiving. It has been estimated that over 75% of Black Americans had non-Black genes. They must have come into being as a result of sexual relationship between white and Black persons. In past America, generally, folks had interracial sex in the hide, not in openness. White slave masters had sex with their Black female slaves and had children with them, and disowned them, of course. In the cities, it was the case that white men would go to Black sections of town to have sex with Black women and then go back to their white neighborhoods, to their white wives. This way, white men would have both white children and Black children, the later disowned. The recently dead Senator Thurman had Black children whom he denied as his children, of course. While the man was fighting racial integration, he was doing his best to integrate the races in the bedroom. Under the cover of darkness, fear and cowardice pervades the interracial sexual situation in America. Folks do one thing and talk about another. Afraid to let the whole world know what they actually do, lest they be socially disapproved. Since white men were in power in America, they could pretty much get away with this sexual charade, but if Blacks tried it, it could turn deadly. Black men who had white girlfriends had to hide that fact. It could mean physical death in the hands of white mobs. Indeed, it could also mean social rejection by fellow Blacks. Black women particularly hated Black men who had white girlfriends, for the implication is that those men preferred white women to them. The sisters are known to ask such brothers, "What has that white bitch got that I don't have? You like them white pussy, nigger?" The least a Black man gets for fooling around with a white woman is job insecurity. Many a Black man has been fired from his job when his white boss found out that he had a white girlfriend. White men generally reject white women who date Black men. As it were, they see such women, often called white trash, as bringing their race downwards, reducing it to the lowly level of niggers. There is a lot of pressure for white women to stay away from Black men. Nobody fully understands why people are attracted across racial lines, for despite the pressure to stay away from persons of other races, interracial dating manages to flourish in the land of the Americas. Some white women, like some white men, sneak into Black ghettos to have sex with their Black lovers. In the past, if these women became pregnant, they had abortion, and if they had children, they most likely gave them up for adoption rather than risk rejection by their fellow whites. These days, with relaxed social opposition to interracial dating, some of these women keep their children. Statistics show that interracial marriages are increasing, though it is still less than 1% in the USA. As far as biology is concerned, there is no such category as races. In so are that there are races, it is social and cultural construct, not a natural one. The social strictures against interracial dating produced a whole lot of psychological issues for those involved. As noted, until recently, white men killed Black men who dated white women. Therefore, a Black man who, for whatever reason, dated a white woman must be cognizant of the fact that his life may be threatened. Some such Black men tended to exhibit paranoid symptoms. They were suspicious, untrusting, and fearful that both whites and Blacks could harm them. Many Black men with white girlfriends exhibit social paranoia. Some call this phenomenon African Americans' functional paranoia, for there was realistic grounds for them to be cautious of whites. For the later historically did kill Blacks who stepped out of line, who did not know their place, as defined for them by their white masters, second-class citizens. That is the history where we come from. Things have changed now. Today, white women find it fun and delightful to having sex with Black men. They find them powerful to take them to the neverland of gobs and gobs of pleasure.